When you think about it, what really connects the money in your pocket to your retirement plan to the entire global economy? It seems almost impossibly complicated, right? Well, it turns out it all boils down to just a few really powerful ideas. And we're going to unpack them, starting with one very simple question.
So let me ask you something. Would you rather I give you $100 right now, today, or that exact same $100 1 year from now? I'm guessing your gut instinct, without even thinking, was give it to me now. And that feeling, that simple preference, that's actually the key to understanding, well, pretty much all of finance.
And that's because your answer to that little question, it reveals the single most important concept in all of finance. Seriously, it's the one idea that unlocks everything else we're going to talk about.
That feeling you just had, that I want it now instinct, that's not just you being impatient. It's the absolute bedrock of financial theory. The very simple act of preferring money now over the exact same money later, that's the seed from which this entire giant tree grows.
And this big idea has a name. It's called the time value of money. Basically, it's the principle that money you have right now is worth more than the same amount in the future. And why is that? Well, because of its potential. You could take that $100 today, invest it, and maybe next year it's $105. Money today has the power to earn more money. MIT Sloan really boils this down to its essence with their first principle of finance. It's simple. A dollar today is not worth the same as a dollar tomorrow. That's it. It's that direct, and it changes absolutely everything. And look, you really can't overstate how huge this is. A lot of experts call this the single most important concept in the field. It's the foundation for literally everything, from figuring out what a company's stock is worth to you planning out your own retirement. Okay, so that's the big theory. But where does this idea actually show up in your day-to-day life? Well, once you start looking for it, you'll see it's hiding in plain sight in almost every money decision you make. I mean, just think about it for a second. Those buy now, pay later services, their entire business model is based on the time value of money. Deciding how much to stash in an emergency fund, picking the right mortgage, and for sure how you invest for your own retirement, all of these are real, tangible examples of this one big idea at work. Okay, but the future isn't just about when you get your money, right? It's also about if you get it at all. So to really get the full picture, we've got to bring in the other crucial piece of the puzzle that works side by side with time, and that's risk. All right, let's play another quick game. Imagine you have two choices. Investment A is a straight-up coin flip, 50-50 shot at $1,000, or nothing, a real gamble. Investment B is way safer, a 50-50 shot, but it's between $550 and $450. So which do you pick? If you're like most people, you probably leaned towards B, the safer bet. And that choice, right there, perfectly illustrates our second core idea. Most of us, we just don't like risk. We'll avoid it unless we're given a really good reason not to. And that reason is the potential for a bigger reward. This is the trade-off. If you want the chance at a higher return, you simply have to be willing to take on more risk. There really is no such thing as a free lunch. Okay, so we've got our two key building blocks, the value of time and this constant tug of war between risk and return. So now let's zoom out. Let's see how these same exact ideas apply on a much, much bigger stage. It's kind of funny, actually. Whether you're talking about a huge corporation deciding to build a billion-dollar factory or a professional investor buying millions of dollars in stock, they are using the exact same logic we just walked through. The rules don't change at all, just the number of zeros at the end. And for these big players, that brings us to our third core principle. Cash is king. We're not talking about accounting profits or anything fancy. The real true value of any asset, or an entire company for that matter, is ultimately decided by how much cold, hard cash it's expected to generate over its entire lifetime. So check this out. This is how a professional analyst actually puts all of this together. First, they try to predict all the cash a company will make in the future. Second, they figure out how risky those predictions are, like what's the chance they'll actually get that cash. And third, they use the time value of money to pull all those future risky dollars back to one single number that tells them what that company is worth today. See? It all connects. So far, we've talked about you, and we've talked about a single company. But what happens when you connect all of them? Every bank, every investor, every single corporation, all together in one giant global system? Because the reality is, the financial world isn't a collection of separate islands. It's this enormous, tangled web. You have thousands of banks and institutions all linked together through loans, investments, and all sorts of complex financial products, creating this massive web of dependency. And this interconnectedness, it creates a very unique and frankly a pretty dangerous type of risk. It's called systemic risk. And the best way to think about it is like a domino effect. If one really important piece of the system fails, it can trigger a chain reaction, toppling other pieces and causing a cascade of problems through the entire network. Okay, now take a look at this. I know it might just look like a mess of lines, but each dot here is a bank, and each line is just one single type of financial connection between them. Even looking at just one layer, it's already a pretty tangled web, isn't it?
But hold on, that was just one single layer. The reality, well, it looks more like this. This is what's called a multi-layer network. It's not just one web. It's a web of interconnected webs, all stacked on top of each other, overlapping. This mind-boggling complexity is what makes our financial system so powerful, but also what makes it so incredibly fragile.
I know. That last image is a lot. It can feel really overwhelming. So let's just pull it all back and connect this massive, complex picture to those simple ideas we started with. Because here is the absolute key takeaway. As impossibly complicated as that network looks, every single line, every dot, every single one of those connections, it's all governed by those same simple, foundational principles we talked about: time, risk, and cash. So, if you remember anything from this, let it be these ideas. $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. If you want higher returns, you have to accept higher risk. And at the end of the day, true value comes from cash flow. These are the simple rules, the fundamental building blocks that scale all the way up to create everything from your budget to that entire global system. And that leaves us with one final, and I think pretty big question. If the fundamental rules of finance are really so simple and logical, why is it that when you layer them all on top of each other, the global system they create can feel so incredibly complex and sometimes so terrifyingly fragile?